Hello, YouTube. This is Maurice Rome, aka the Icon. We just the last come study with me. We just finished the book of Genesis. Now we on Exodus. It was the last one. It was reading off the last time of Joseph. Now we on Exodus. Go back to Egypt, freed from Egyptian slavery. Israelites hurriedly pack everything they can carry and start their long journey home. Slaves follow Moses out of Egypt. A 7-year drought blisters Canaan, a region today known as Israel. So Jacob packs up his extended family, all 70 souls, and moves to Egypt. There's plenty of water along the Nile River, and the Egyptian king has divided the family down since Jacob's son, Joseph, is one of the king's favorite officials. 430 years later, Jacob's descendants are still there. Somewhere along the way, the new king has turned them into a slave race. They built cities. God sent Moses to free them. But the Egyptian king, identified only by his title Pharaoh, insists on keeping his slave labor. He releases them only after God, acting through Moses, hammers the Egyptians with 10 plagues, decimating their crops, herds, and family. Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt on what becomes a 40-year journey home. During that time, God organizes the people into a nation. He gives them hundreds of laws, religious, civil, and criminal. These laws set up the system for worship and for running the country. With God is king, as king. Guests become slaves. The Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They made their lives bitter, forcing them to mix mortar and make bricks and do all the work in the fields. Exodus 1, chapter 13 through 14. Jacob's extended family of 70 children and grandchildren overstayed their welcome in Egypt. The drought of Canaan ends. But Jacob's family doesn't go home. Instead, they kept grazing their flocks in Egypt's lush northeast pastures. Jacob dies, and so do all of his 12 sons. But they leave behind a fast-growing family. In time, perhaps, after a century or more, a new Egyptian king realizes there are so many immigrants that they could take over his country. So he herds them into a slave labor force. They built at least 2 cities, Rhamnus and Paphon. The king hopes that the brutal labor will wear them down and slow their surging birthright. The original language described the Israelites with a dramatic word that translates as a swarm. Plan A for population control fails. Hard work does nothing to stop the baby boom. So the king moves to Plan B, self-inflicted genocide. He orders Israelite midwives to kill all newborn Israelite boys, but they can't bring themselves to do it. King announces Plan C. It's a final solution for the Israelite problem. When the Egyptians see an Israelite baby boy, they are to express their patriotism by throwing him into the Nile River. Since Egyptian cities rest along the banks of the Nile, this is a convenient way to kill a baby. One toss and the life is gone. No cleanup, no burial needed. Moses floats. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in a basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. This Exodus 2, verses 2. This Exodus chapter 2, verses 2-3. The woman of Jochebed, mother of Moses. in the way she obeys the king. She puts her son in the Nile River. However, she makes sure he floats, and she put him near where the king's daughter bathes, hiding nearby, watching as the baby's big sister Miriam. As expected, the princess finds the baby basket, opens it, and realizes the boy must be an Israelite. Still, her heart melts. Moses' older sister walks over and says she knows a woman who can breastfeed the boy and takes care of him. Moses' mother gets the job. She actually gets paid to be a mother to her own son. That's kind of dope. That's messed up, but it's dope. The princess adopts the boy and names him Moses, probably for two reasons. She drew him out of the water, and Moses sounds like a Hebrew word meaning draw out. Also in Egyptian, the name simply means boy. It is a name often used in various forms among Egyptian royalty. Hamon first and third, along with Thutmose 1 and 4. Thutmose 1 ruling from 1524 to 1518 BC, may have been the Israelite-hating king on the throne when Moses was born. If so, it's a tad funny that the Israelite-hating king ends up with an adopted Israelite grandson named after him. That's messed up too. As an adult, Moses became emotionally attached to his people. When he sees an Egyptian beating a slave, Moses killed the Egyptian slave driver and then buries the corpse under the sand. But when Moses found out that some Israelites saw the murder, he flees the country because he believes the king will order him executed. Moses travels east. In the same direction, he will later lead his people. He settles east of the Sinai Peninsula, along what is now the border of Jordan and Saudi Arabia. There he met a separate, marries one of the man's daughters, has a son, and works as a shepherd until he's 80 years old. God in the bushes. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. This is Exodus chapter 3, verse 2. Elderly Moses is grazing his father-in-law's sheep in the field near Mount Sinai. A bush erupts in fire, but doesn't burn up. Some folks say this might have been a natural phenomenon involving Fleshina, commonly called the gas plant. Native to the Middle East, the plant emits gas vapors that can ignite under the scorching sun and burn without destroying the plant. But even if the fire is natural, the talking bush isn't. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. The voice comes from inside the fire. It's either an angel or God himself. Since the divine being is later described as the Lord, in either case the message comes from God. You will lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Moses isn't so sure. He makes three excuses for not going back to Egypt. Excuse number one, who am I to appear before the Pharaoh? God answers, I will be with you. Excuse number two, they won't believe me. God promised to give Moses a miracle-working power that will convince anyone, Israelites and Egyptians alike, that God has sent him. Excuse number three, I'm clumsy with words. God answered with a question, who makes mouths? Reluctantly, Moses heads for Egypt, accompanied by his wife and son, meeting the God King. Let my people go. This is probably their books with famous lines. It's a message God told Moses and his brother Aaron to deliver to Pharaoh. The king is on the realm. Who is the Lord that I shall listen to? The king asks. That's a good question. Egyptians considered their king a god, the son of Ra, who is the most, who is the powerful sun god in this deserted land. The king certainly knows of many gods. See, the Egyptians worship a pack gallery of them, but he has apparently heard little or nothing about the Israeli God. Even if he has, what's to impress him about a God who allows his worshippers a lingers in slavery for generations? A God like that would seem wimpy. Moses decides to teach Moses and the Israelites who's boss. He orders the Israelites to start gathering their own straw while making just as many bricks as before. The Israelites complained to Moses, "May the Lord judge you for getting us into a terrible situation with Pharaoh." In response, Moses complains to God, "Why did you send me? You will see what I will do to Pharaoh." God answers, "When he feels my powerful hand upon him, he will let my people go." Thank you for studying with me. The next study with me is the 10 plagues. And then we're going to talk about the 10 plagues, the first Passover, crossing the Red Sea, and fast food from heaven. And then that's about it for the next video. But this video, we really just learned how Moses was rose to power. He was born in power. It's funny how that for him to be saved and to be in the sea in the Nile River, which is still today, which is the longest river in the world, and then for the Pharaoh's daughter to pick him up, and then he trying to kill the Pharaoh's, the Israelites kids, but he ended up adopting one. And ironic is the sister, looked over him, and then the mama ended up raising him anyway. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of interesting, But yeah, for tomorrow, I'll just say for the next video, look out. Just come study with me, and we're going to learn about the 10 plagues and so forth. Thank you for watching my video. Like, share, subscribe.